In today's video, we are going to play with the big stick. Yeah, the dual analog stick. And this thing is freaking awesome. So let's go. So with the PlayStation era, there were a lot of cool stuff that you can actually get. I can still remember, of course, the light guns. I did a review here on the channel. However, there was one particular game I've bought, or I bought a couple of them, but there was one particular one I noticed that had a very cool feature. And it shows over here with having the analog joystick compatible. And that was one of the things I was looking for a very long time, and I managed to find one. Not in best condition, however, it's going to be absolutely a blast to the past, but this time on a different way. Yep, I managed to find one, and it's absolutely not in the best condition, because if you're looking at the color of the original PlayStation controllers and this thing, oh man, it was a smoker's collection. If you're looking at your original controller, we have two joysticks, and the idea is actually exactly the same, having two massive joysticks. However, there is quite a lot of difference when it comes to this, because the buttons have been implemented in the joystick itself. Where we have all kinds of cool fly sticks and different configurations possible now, this is just an old school retro piece of equipment that has a lot of cool features. Like I mentioned before, over here we're having all of the function buttons on one of the joysticks, so we can shoot and just navigate through the stage with one single joystick, or we can just combine it with the ones in the middle over here. Then at the right we're having the mode switch. Here at the left we're having the select and start, but when you're looking at the left joystick, there are some differences over here. Finding the L and R1, so what you can actually do is using different configurations when it comes to this joystick. However, when it comes to, let's say, the joysticks, so the right one will have this tiny micro switch knob, or this is like a D-pad in different shape. And with this, we can actually do all kinds of cool things in games itself. No converters or other craziness. What you can just do is plug this thing in like a regular controller and you're ready to go. However, there is a little bit of a downside to this joystick already. So the Steel Rain game and tank game is actually like a very cool simulator thingy, giving more like an overall arcade experience. That's kind of cool, and of course analog joystick compatible. So with the stick, it didn't come with this particular game, it came with 4 other games. That's one of the reasons I actually picked up this one. It was a good price, and it also comes with Colony Wars, Ace Combat 2, none other Colony Wars with Vengeance, and MDK is absolutely one of those, let's say, very cool novelties or absolutely classic games that are also released on the PC, if I'm saying it correctly. So also these all have the mark that we're having the analog joystick compatible, but there will be many more. But I'm not going to be like searching for those. We're just going to play a couple of them, and let's bring you with me on this magical adventure. But let's create this more like this cool retro arcade setup with the joystick in front of the monitor. First thing I'm going to be doing is removing twisted metal over here, and let's start off with the Steel Rain, one of those games I bought first and I really wanted to check it out. I picked it up, it seemed to be polished but in okay condition, and let's have some fun, because this is one of those, let's say, very cool novelties you can sometimes find, let's say, on conventions and sometimes even in box, of course. But man, let's go, let's enjoy the music. Oh yeah. One of the things that we need to do is switching between the mode over here, otherwise we cannot move whatsoever. Okay, there we go. So when it comes to the options, we're going to be easy mode. The game mode will be set to arcade to begin with. And another thing that we need to check out is the controller. And this has to do of, let's say, the way how you want to play. We have like left steering, so only one joystick. We have one for both, and I think that's going to be the most cool way. You get more like this Gundam thing going on. So I think that is going to be absolutely awesome. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's start up the game. Let's choose ourselves a tank. The Diamondback seems to be cool. And let's start it up. And let's just have some fun, man, because this is such a cool game to try out. Already tested it out a little bit because I needed to get just to the configuration, because it's just quite a difficult game to play.
Destroy the militia encampment, the radar installation, and eliminate bridge defenses.
Okay, that's clear. Okay, so the weird thing is like the right trigger over here will turn the turret itself, but the left trigger will give you the option to shoot. That automatically drives. So this way we can just basically go backwards, forward. This way is how we're going to be shooting. It's such a cool way, particularly when you're going to be using both joysticks. So let's see. But you can also switch between the weapons if you want to. There are different buttons for that. So over here we're having the L1 and R1. We'll switch over there. For example, we're having at the left the Gatling gun. And that's what we're going to be using. Okay, so let's go. This is so cool. Let's see if we can drive over this. Yep, we can. Absolutely massacre when it comes to driving a tank. Let's see if I can switch weapons. There we go. Let's blow everything up. But that's exactly the way. We're doing missions, just drive around, and it's a lot of fun. But one of the things I do wonder when it comes to this, okay, so we can use actually one single joystick if you want to combine it with these buttons. It's all up to the person's actually how you want to play. But I think the dual joystick is just so cool because come on, we have two joysticks. How many times will you have this option in certain controller or games? Oh, these boxes of the PlayStation games are the worst. However, when it comes to this is just a freaking two-based game. Two-disc-based game. It's absolutely nuts. I think the only game that also 4-disc is Final Fantasy, or is 3 or 4-disc. So you don't see this very often, but back in the day it was absolutely like very mind-blowing. Like holy crap, with 2-disc freaking game to actually play. So out of the box, when it comes to this particular game, you have no movement whatsoever on the left joystick. What you can actually do is, let's say, navigate through space with the L1 and R1 going forward and forward. And with the joystick at the back over here, we have even more buttons we can rotate if you want to. And with the right joystick, we can actually like shoot. But the weird thing is that's been mapped to the X over here, not the back button. So there's a little bit of a downside. We can switch weapons and do all kinds of cool things. So the configuration of this is quite difficult to actually like play for me. You can also use like the normal buttons in the middle and just play it like that. So when it comes to the space game, it's kind of cool. But for me, it is giving me like a normal flight stick feeling. And I read that I'll use both of the joysticks. What we can actually maybe do is get into the settings over here and we try to navigate. But I find it convenient that we can actually use this smaller, let's say, D-pad for just actually getting into the audio and navigate through the menu. However, it's a fun game to play. I'm not really into the space shooters, but I just wanted to check it out. So the question remains, we do have these other like Colonial Wars. Will this have like a different effect or will it be the same way you should play the first one? So in the next game, and I think this is the Colonial Wars Vengeance, we do have a little bit of more options. It seems to be in German language. The guy sold me German games. Didn't even know there were games only in German language. It's quite interesting. Annoying at the same time. But let's go further and let's do the analog way. And let's start with the game itself. It's very strange that when it comes to this game itself, we can change different lasers. We can shoot like this. Okay. So let's see. Okay, we can move left and right and all the other things with the buttons underneath over here. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, so we can also use the right joystick. But this is so strange. So when it comes to the overall experience, at this point I'm actually going to be using only one joystick. That is cool. But that's the dead zone on this. Holy crap. Look at this, how far you need to move it for actually having any movement going on. So the overall experience why this thing seems to be like having a support for this controller, I find it quite disappointing actually. The next game is going to be Ace Combat 2. That also was included. So TP is a multi-language, so not German language only. So I'm guessing even this thing has this dual thingy compatible. I'm guessing you are going to be using one of these. I think I'm going to be using only this one. So let's get into the game and let's check out if it's any fun. So what is kind of cool, so we do have a very interesting way we can actually configure everything like this. So I'll give you an example. Pressing the Mo button over here, you can just see that we're having just the D-pad and just a normal controller. Switching, it automatically switches to the other one. And here you can just see that we're having different kind of configurations. So let's see, so we have like all of the front facing buttons, I'm guessing over here. So mapping and all the other ones going to be in here, but let's check out if we can set it to expert. So expert mode will give us the different kind of options. But the L2 and R2 are actually, I'm guessing, at the back over here, so not going to give us an extra dimension with this. We can also use that. So export mode is not going to be any great thing that we can do. But it is interesting, so we do have custom configuration buttons. So enter to start button, okay. So that's kind of cool. So we can just figure everything out. So I'm guessing that we can just, oh, here we can switch it out, but we can only switch out the front facing buttons. That's kind of disappointing. I was hoping to actually like having both joysticks set up. So that's quite limited. Even there isn't control option there. So that's absolutely one thing is clear, that of course we're going to be using one joystick, even if both will be recognized. So yeah, what you can do is actually shoot over here with the X button. We have the button over here too, so we can just basically play in two different ways. We can just only use the joystick if you want to. D-pad doesn't do anything. Okay, so the trigger is actually the rocket. The map can be activated here. Okay, speeding up, we still need to use the buttons over here, the R1. And this way you can actually catch up with the bad guys, the boogies. There we go. However, this is absolutely a fun game to play, but it doesn't really utilize this full potential of the stick, because we have this massive two-player stick, or two joystick stick. But we cannot really utilize both of them. And I find it a little bit of a bummer, because you can just actually do this with a smaller, let's say, flight stick with the same game. Another game I was looking for is the MDK. And it seems to be analog compatible, what I already mentioned before, but yeah, let's see if we can actually play this game. I already booted it up. I think I died in the meantime. I was talking to you guys. But let's see what happens. Oh, no, we're not. Okay. It automatically starts running. Let's see what happens if we're going to be using this option. Okay, that is kind of cool. So we can use strafe to the left, right over here. So this is one of those cooler games. Let's run backwards. There we go. See, and this is actually a very cool game that will utilize both of the joysticks. Still having this massive dead zone. So when it comes to this particular game, it's absolutely awesome. Yeah, this is fun thing to do. A very fun game to play. But there are a couple of games I still wonder is like, how will this play when it comes to games like Descent, because that is one of those cooler games that had a lot of cool options too. So that's one of the things that we're going to be checking out, because MDK is a lot of fun to play. Okay, so let's boot this game up, because this is one of those cool games I love to play. Forsaken, Descent, so awesome. Okay, so I'm guessing the D-pad is configured. Yeah, so this doesn't do anything. The only thing I can check out is the mode button to see if this changes the game. But so far, nothing is going to be working. So when it comes to, beside like the games that have analog support, we can't play anything. Okay, that's kind of weird. So it only works in one single mode, an analog mode. So we can actually do something, but normally we need to like using certain buttons. Okay, so we can actually use L1 and R1 like it should be, but we can just tilt and some weird stuff. Okay, so we can move if you want to, but this joystick, both of them are not doing anything. So if you're finding the right game with this analog stick, it's absolutely awesome. So at this point, I must say that I really enjoyed myself, but the overall, let's say, performance of the joystick, I can tell you that I find slightly disappointing. My favorite games were actually Steel Rain and the MDK game. Those were like absolutely cool because utilizing both of the joystick, and it gives me like absolutely cool arcade feeling. Let me know in the comments, do you see any games in your collection that can be played with this? It would be great to know. And it will be great to see you in the next video. So consider subscribing and hit the bell.